Well, hello Land Cruiser gang, welcome back to another one of my videos from here on my driveway in Scotland. This is all about the costs of running my 2003 Land Cruiser Amazon, which now has 1,999 miles on it. 199k. I originally spent £10,500 on it, and after my first year my total spend was up to 21 grand. Now I'm going to tell you everything that I've done in my second year to repair it, to maintain it and to modify it. I'll also tell you my costs for road tax, insurance, MOT, all of those things I'll include. I'll tell you everything that you might have to spend if you want to run a Land Cruiser Amazon here in the UK. So this video is part of a series. I did my first one with my Audi RS6. I got lots of feedback on it. It's got a couple of 100,000 views now. I've learned from that to make this video a bit better. I'll include those videos in the links down below for my year one on the Land Cruiser and for the Audi RS6. You might be shocked at the costs of both of them, but this is the year two video for my 100 series. I've done 7,752 miles in it today, and that is at a cost of 70 pence per mile travelled. Much cheaper than my first year, where I was nearly £3 just on basic costs. We're only 70 pence a mile, mostly because I've done a lot more miles in it because it spent less time in the repair shop. Let's get started with the engine. So same as before, 11.4 litres of engine oil and a filter to go along with it. That was £130 using genuine Toyota oil bought through Rough Tracks. The £130 for that. A repair to the aircon, again, still fighting aircon issues. Second year, that was my biggest problem. So I regassed this twice at a cost of £60. So £120 total for gassing the aircon. Then I spent on aircon dye. There is, dye on the compressor, dye on the tubing, dye on my fingers, dye on my floor, dye on my dog. Dog, where are you? You got dye on you as well now? Yeah. And replacing some of the O-rings. The new one has a lot more beef to it. Almost like the other one has shrunk over age. Oh yeah, that's a much more snug fit than before. Oh, that felt much more positive. That was £28. I also had to fit a gasket kit for the aircon. This little gasket here, because if you look at the back, if I can pinch this to zoom in, on the back, see all that crustiness on the rear of the housing? It looks to me like the gasket is leaking at the back there. Maybe it's just gone a little bit flat with age. So you can see where there's more gunk on this side than that side. So I'm guessing that the rear of the gasket has failed. That was £14, and then a second batch of O-rings at the back here for another £14. That was my aircon costs in my second year. So I then had to regas it again, so that's another £65 once that was all done. Next, I purchased an engine gasket kit because I had to take off my inlet manifold and do some minor repairs there and some cleaning. So I had a full engine gasket kit for the 1HD FTE. I got it was a bit of a bargain price when I bought it. It was £96. Shipped, delivered, £96 for that. So the last thing here is some power steering fluid, which I just topped up here, £20 for that. That was following the repairs that were done to the steering rack in the first year. I had a slightly low level of steering fluid, so I topped that up. £20 for the bottle, not particularly bad. Major repairs this year were done on the front end of the car, and if you ignore the mud on the sides, the front end is looking absolutely great now. Spent a lot of money on the front wings, and it has the classic problem that they all have. It has rust forming behind the front wheel, and there's a bracket up in the top there which is completely gone. I bought a set of front wings from Nayab Akbar out in Pakistan. I got absolutely fleeced on the deal. £650 for a set of absolutely shit, rusted, bent wings that needed welding, body filler. Paint finish has got some sort of weird striping on it. Now the inside's been welded here, and the colour there is, it's a bit dark and it's a bit blue. Not a great match. That's a little bent. This has been bent back during shipping. This has been welded. The aerial antenna hole, that's bashed in, but they needed completely repainted, even though I paid for paint. That's a long story that I'm not really going to go into because he's already threatened to sue me. So front wings from him, £650. Getting those painted was another £690 because of the sheer amount of repairs that they needed done. So, what's that? £1,300, at least £1,300 just to get my front wings. And that was with me doing all the fitting and installation and stuff. That was just having the wings sent here and then having them painted by a body shop. Very expensive. $650 for the wings themselves, $690 to get them all painted up on top. The front bumper got resprayed while it was in there because I'd, cut it up to 35s and it had some nicks and dings on it, so an extra $300 to get my front bumper sprayed up. And then I replaced some of the window trims. The side window trims tend to warp over time, so I got a couple of them replaced. That's £130. All of the clips and brackets that go on to fitting the front wings and the front bumper was £105, all just from Amayama, delivered from either the Emirates or from Japan itself. £105 worth of clips and brackets to get all of these to fit on. Just because I had to replace with, new bolts around the outside, and the little fasteners just don't survive being pulled out. Oh, I just realised I've got to fit some new clips in there because it's coming off. That's going to be a problem for after this gets its undersealing. Where was I? Front clips and brackets, £105 worth of little plastic doodads. Also at the front here, 4 sets of wiper blades. Must have had a particularly rough winter, and I did bend one of them myself by being an idiot. That was £88 worth of wiper blades. And while I was getting my front bumper done, the fog lights were £40, and then although I forgot to add it, I did some indicator lenses as well. So I replaced the corner lights and the fog lights. They were about £40 each. For 2 pairs, £40 a pair. Now, didn't have a lot to do underneath the car in my second year. So that engine guard there, the stock one was completely rusted out. It was actually so difficult to remove because it was in such poor condition. So I got that one from Rival 4x4, not because I expect to be bashing off rocks or anything, but it was just a very cheap way of getting a nice engine guard on. That was only £126 delivered. Absolute bargain. Also underneath, I had to do a whole bunch of bitumen coating. I don't think I have any bottles of it here. No, God knows where that's gone. I had to do a whole bunch of bitumen coating underneath it, so I bought spray cans of that, £40 worth of those bottles, 43. They were very useful to cover up anywhere that I disturbed the paint underneath, or just as a precursor to having my full strip down and undersealing done. Those bitumen cans were a nice stopgap, so £43, and it allowed me to just apply, especially like behind the wheel arches where I'd done a lot of cutting to fit the 35s. Bitumen all over that, make sure it doesn't rust out. And it hasn't worked, by the way, which is why it's got to go in for underbody work. And the last thing is just replacing the sump plug with a magnetic one with a little washer. So I think every second oil change I will replace with a new magnetic sump plug. So a new one of them was £12. And there was one more repair, which is really a repair to my modification, so it's not really a problem with the car. But when I'm using my power station here, I decided to just fit Anderson plugs. These cables, which allow me to top up my power station. That's actually a solar panel cable with I think it's an XT60. So that's an XT60 connector on the end of it, sorry. XT60i connector, which pretends to be a solar panel plug, which allows the power station to charge at higher wattages. And because I break them all the time, rather than having them hardwired to the transformer, I just put it on an Anderson plug. So £12 allows me to just make spares of these cables so that if I drop something on it or if I burst the cable, that little repair only cost me £12. And in fact, that gave me a couple of spare Anderson plugs as well because they came in a little cheap kit. All right, that's the end of my maintenance and repairs for the year. And again, I'm doing my best Harry's Garage impression with my clipboard here with my costs on it.
And I went through the costs of it. What does it actually cost?
We've got modifications to the car again this year. A lot less than in my first year, but I'll start off with the big one. While the car was having this front end refresh done, I pulled everything off and I installed a massive intercooler. Now I will confess to getting a bit annoyed. I may even have said, don't buy this thing. Be aware what you're getting into. This is probably 3 times the size of a standard intercooler. Let me just grab the thing. Yeah, it's more than double the physical dimensions, and it's much thicker also. Now, that is the Ali Sport intercooler. It's about 3 times the size of the standard one. The fitment on it was absolute dog poo, and it has made basically no difference to the drivability of the vehicle. It just looks fancy sitting behind the grille. It looks quite threatening, but unless I'm going to do more supporting modifications, you know, bigger turbo or a custom ECU, it's not really going to make the most of that. However, I did spend £555 on that intercooler, and I can't recommend you do that. Now, I landed a bit of a bargain on the back here with the rear anti-roll bar. I found that after my AHC lift and my body lift, this car was really struggling for body roll, and so I decided to put a stiffer rear anti-roll bar on. So if you look under here, so that black anti-roll bar that, you know, looks newer than any of the other suspension components, yeah, that is newer. That's a white line part. It was £156 and included the bushes for those shackles on the end. £156. It took bloody ages for them to actually find it in the warehouse because it's obviously such a rarely ordered part. It took nearly 2 months for them to find it and send it. But £156. Next, and I did a full video on this, but the rad rubber, I was still having problems with my engine splash guards after year 1, so I got these ones sent over from America, which also catered for my 1-inch body lift. The other thing that I did in this area, and you probably can't see it, but let's see, can we look underneath? That there is a decat exhaust pipe. There was nothing wrong with my catalytic converter, I just wanted a decat exhaust. Helps with getting a bit of heat out the engine bay and makes the car a little bit noisier. You can hear the turbo whistle a bit more. Again, not expecting that to have any meaningful power difference, it was just a thing I wanted, and it was only £59. So that was a bit of a bargain, bit of a weird one. I did a bit of a modification experiment with a cabin filter. Now, the LX470 in America comes with a cabin filter. Oh, you can't actually see it on this side. I wonder if I can see it on the passenger side. Anyway, the LX470 comes with a HEPA filter. It's got little paper and cotton filters that you can replace in order to keep dust out of the vehicle. So in here, there's this radiator for the heating and aircon system. The idea being you can swap for a different front cover, and you can modify so that you can put those filters in a car that didn't have the filter from the factory. I tried it, didn't work. So I spent £54 and I wasted £54 because even with the new seal and the new front cover, it didn't work. So I gave up on that. That was £54 wasted. But I gave it my best shot. And my final expensive mod for this year was the ARB awning, which I don't actually have on the car at the moment. It's like stacked up at the back of the garage here. But I got the 2.5 meter long awning. I'm sure I'll have some video or pictures of it I can put on. This was great for camping, great for car shows also, where we can, man, the camber on that front wheel is wonky. It's been great for camping, it's been great for car shows and track days where you can do a bit of work under some cover. That's been lovely. That ARB awning with the brackets was £428. I think in future I'll actually buy the little room shelter thing that you can make with it. Because as my 3-year-old son gets a bit older, we'll do more trips, and I think it'll be nice for him to have a little outdoor room attached to the side of the car. So that was the ARB awning, £428 for that. Right, that's my mods. Now my last thing, again, I'm doing my best Harry's Garage impression with my clipboard here. My final costs are my, it's not repairs or maintenance or mods, it's just my costs, the things that I can't avoid. So first of all is the fuel, that's the major cost. I did a lot more miles this year and my fuel cost was 1,600, again at 22 miles per gallon with the diesel, despite the 35-inch tyres. 22 miles per gallon, 1,600 on fuel. My road tax went up this year to 410. Insurance went up as well, yay inflation. £407 I was for the insurance. You know, no claims, still the same drivers in the same location, but my insurance went up from, what was it? My insurance went up from £274 to 407. Not great. So I'm older, supposedly wiser, more no claims bonus, more no claims discount, and still went up to 407. So not great. So my MOT also went up, it was more expensive, £60 for my MOT this year. And that means that this year I spent a total of £5,351 keeping this car on the road. Repairs, maintenance and costs, £5,351. And that was only 464 on maintenance, most of which was the oil, 2,444 on repairs, most of which was the front end painting task, and then another £1,350, 1,350 on mods, some of which were useful and some of which were absolutely questionable. I'm looking at you, Ali Sport Intercooler. That gives us a total of £6,701. And as my neighbour probably thinking I'm a right idiot. For my mileage this year, I was 70 pence per mile travelled. If I include the cost of the mods on top, that would be £86 per mile. And some of those were like camping and family day trip miles. So 86 pence per mile to run this car at 22 miles per gallon for the year. That means that this Land Cruiser, as it sits here today, has cost me £27,750 in just 2 years. So that's nearly 8,000 miles and nearly £28,000. So again, I said the same thing in the last video, this car is not for everyone. This is an expensive, this is almost like a hobby car at this point, an enthusiast vehicle. But it is brilliant for our family. It's brilliant for everything we do with track days and long road trips and hauling gearboxes and cars to the track, whatever we need to do. It's very comfortable, it's very quiet, it's very luxurious. Unfortunately, the infotainment inside there is absolute dog do, but maybe we'll fix that at some point. But £27,750 to keep this thing on the road for 2 years. You might think I'm absolutely bonkers, and you might be right, but I love this car. The only thing I would replace it with is probably a Range Rover, having had both, but I'll stick with the Land Cruiser for now, especially since I'm sinking so much money into it. I got to keep the Land Cruiser. So there we are. So if you have any questions or comments, please do stick them down in the sections below. I'll include links to some of the other cost videos that I've done. And just lastly, thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. I hope you're enjoying these videos. Take care, make good decisions if you can, and I will see you in another video very soon. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care of yourselves. Bye.